each other. So I did send out a little worksheet that you can use that goes along with this day one lesson 1. And it is about how to focus on what part of herbalism and herbs that you want to do. So there's a wide variety of things you could do. You could look at only plant identification of medicinal herbs, focus on ritual use of herbs, herbs that are associated with the moon or different astrological signs. You could focus on traditional Chinese medicine, the green wise woman tradition that Susan Weed has. There's just a plethora of avenues that you could take. So that first worksheet I sent out gives a list of different subjects that you could focus on, and I'll speak to some of them as well, so that you might be able to kind of just keep on one track, just maybe even for the 7-day challenge or for your further study. You could also even focus on a specific ailment. So you could look into what herbs are used for nervousness or depression or muscle aches and things like that. So that's what I want you to focus on today, is to think about which herbs, or what is it about herbs that you really like, and then go with that. So rather than, here's a book, one of my first books here that I used when I was first starting out. I didn't even know if I should trust the book. That was the other thing. I didn't know which teachers or authors to even trust. But it was just so overwhelming when I would open it up and just see all these herbs. And then sometimes I would just stop studying herbs for a while because it was just so overwhelming and I didn't have a mentor to get me through it. I did start focusing on just names, the Latin names and the common names, and I was focusing on those for quite some time. And then after I got a good number of names and plants together, like maybe 5, if I knew their names and how to identify them, then I'd move on to what they're used for. If you're not particularly interested in learning how to use them physically, you might want to focus on how to use them energetically. So for example, just like the magical uses of them. So like lavender is known to be very relaxing. Even if you don't ingest it, just having it to smell is very, very good. So you might be more interested in the aromatherapy or the essential oils, or just in what teas or what herbs can be used for tea, for making teas too. So there's a number of things that you can focus on. And the other way to figure it out, because I was interested in everything, I want to learn how to grow them, what's the best way to propagate them through seeds or cuttings, and then how to use them and how to make herbal remedies. I wanted to be the best in all of it. And so I did experiment in all of them and helped narrow down to certain things. So that might be it. You might just need to experiment with a lot of things. Another way to focus is just to write down, what is it about the plants that you really enjoy? I really enjoy being with them out in nature and in my garden. Other people may not be so interested in growing and using them as gardens. Maybe they love just to have them all in jars around them and have them, just buy them through the store. So maybe go back to a few memories that you've had of when you first kind of had this realization, like, I really love being around herbs and herbal remedies. And then just try to narrow it down to like one simple thing. So I have a memory of being playing with lilac bushes a lot when I was a little girl, and I would kind of climb into them, in between them, and make little houses out of them. So in that instance, if somebody came to me with that memory, I would say, well, then focus just on lilac for a while and focus on getting to know what it looks like, all the plant parts and the botany of it, and how it grows, and if it can be used for things and what it means. So that's another way to start getting, focused on what you want to do. So get that tune in to what it is you like about plants, and then see if you can narrow it down to a few things that you could focus your study on. All right, so I'm going to show you, I'm just checking my time here. Okay. I'm going to show you a couple ways that I have put together a book of shadows for my herbal collection. And at one point I had a little free thing called the Herbal Journal. I don't have that out anymore because I have my real Learning Herbalism workbook. But for a long time I called it my Herbal Journal. And so what I did is I kept it in a binder because, and I'll show you a little bit in here. So I have some worksheets in here that are also in my my workbook, and then I have my plant profiles in the back. So this is my working book of shadows right now. These are the plants and herbal actions and indications that I'm really interested in, and I'm learning about those. And I like the binder method because then I can rearrange things and add in new handouts that I find. Or articles, because I really like reading about the research too. So that's my current one. One of the first book of shadows that I started to put together, I don't know, maybe in my 20s or so, was just to have a book of inspirational quotes and pictures that I was finding on about herbs. And like, here's a picture. I don't know if you can see it, but isn't that lovely? Oh, here we go. Okay, focus camera. There's a picture of a chair in a stone little house with a bunch of plants around it. And then what I also started to do is, let me get to a page. I started to just try to do a page every so often. Here's barberry, and then I have a little picture that I drew in it. I liked this method because it's in a book, right? But what I found was that I was starting to learn more and more things about each plant, and I was running out of room on those pages, and so I didn't know what to do. So that kind of got me a little bit frustrated, and then I started to keep more pages blank in between. But as you can see, I have a lot of blank pages, which means I abandoned that project. And I sort of moved on to the binder way of doing things just so I could keep adding in. What else do I have in here is my, what I call my materia medica. So like I said, different, here's a whole profile on kava kava, and I have it arranged by alphabet. So there's tabs in here. So I have all the L words. I do usually by common names. So here's lady's mantle and lavender and everything that I've learned about these plants. Then I've put into materia medica here. I shouldn't say everything. I keep some of it in my head too. But you can see that some of them are really long and detailed and printed out that I've done on the computer. But I've also done ones where I print it out and then I just handwrite it in. So those are the ones where I'm just learning about the plants. And if I get tired of being on the computer sometimes, printing and typing, and so I'll just print one out and then go outside and start handwriting or be by the plant and start sketching it out. So I will be sharing with you in lesson 2 and lesson 2 for sure. I'm going to give you some worksheets that you can use as a plant profile, and I'll have different subjects on there that you can fill out if you want, or you can start making your own sheet to collect that information. If you're interested in more of the magical side of using herbs, so, you know, some people use them in ritual for, like, if they're trying to increase abundance in their life, then they'll look up all the plants that can be used for abundance rituals, and maybe that's what you want to use for that plant. But I'll just give you some examples through this this challenge so that you can use them if you want, or you can get an idea of what I have on mine and then make your own as well. You can simply just get a notebook too and start doing it that way. you know, I've certainly done that so that you can sketch them, use as much paper as you want. You could use a workbook for each plant if you really thought you're going to go in depth. If you're looking to learn quite a number of plants in a short amount of time, keep it to a certain number of pages, 1 or 2 pages. Once that's filled up, then you move on to the next one. That is my best advice for people who want to learn plants really quickly and herbalism really quickly, is to just give yourself a finite space to work with and then move on. Your Herbal Book of Shadows is a work in progress. It will change like you've seen mine, and it will just grow with you over time. So I would say don't get too hung up on which kind of method to use right away, because you might have to change, and that's okay. If you start out in a bound book like this, and then realize later on that you do want to be adding more and you don't have enough pages, you could get this thing cut and 3-hole punched and put into a binder. You could have everything in a binder bound together into a book as well if you wanted to do that too. So don't like really worry too much about what it looks like at first. So yeah. Sandy says she started doing this a couple weeks ago. Yeah. How are you doing it, Sandy? Are you using a notebook, or what are you doing to get yours going? The other thing you can do is make sure that, like, this doesn't have a pretty cover on it right now. Make sure to get your notebook or your binder or whatever make it look good. Make it look like something that you want to go pick up. Make it look yummy. I think that I kept that book cover blank because for a while I didn't want people knowing what I was doing. It's like a closet herbalist, closet plant lady, and so I just kept it. It just looks like a sketchbook. And then this one, I really liked this cover that I had made for the herbal journal that I was sharing with people, and this really inspired me. So you want something that you're going to be inspired by, so that you know, because sometimes keeping up a nice schedule to learn about herbalism is kind of hard sometimes. So because you might be tired from the end of the day at work, or you may have kids running around and they're distracting you, and it's just hard to pick it up. But make it so that you want to use it. The other thing I do is, I'm looking around here, I do keep things in a container too, so that it's easy for me to pick up and go. And so I'm going to grab that. For instance, just keep like a little thing like this where you could keep a binder or a book in, and then have a couple books, or if you have a laptop or a Kindle or an iPad or something, you know, keep it all in there. If you're more prone to be an artist and like drawing the plants, then make sure you keep pens, pencil, coloring things there too. So that's really simple for you to just pick up and go. And I did that. I found out that worked for me because I have 2 kids. And when I was doing my Master Herbalism program, they were much younger. And so I needed to be able to find 15 minutes here and there to be able to pick up and go. And I didn't want to have to run around in my house to find the book and the paper and pencil and things like that. So you could use a book bag, you could use a basket, you know, anything just to kind of keep that stuff contained. If you're lucky and you can keep it in one place at a desk or next to a reclining chair or something like that, then maybe do that. Just keep it so that it's really handy for you. So Sandy says she started a spiral bounder, then found a much nicer bound book and leaving a couple of extra pages between for the herbs. Great. And the other thing too is that even if you wrote it down in a notebook and now are moving to a bound book, you could even take those out and like paste them or glue them to the pages of this too, if you didn't want to hand write everything in there. If you find pictures in magazines or seeds catalogs of the herbs, rather than drawing them, you could just cut that out and add that into your Herbal Book of Shadows as well. That's a fun way to do it too. Jen says, I've been working on this as well. I have been using binders and fairy sketches, and I've had for years. And I'll put the sticker you're sending, yes, and the workbook will be here today. Awesome. Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, add anything, like you say, fairy sketches in there. If you feel a sense of a certain sense with a plant and you want to express that, certainly do that in any creative way that you want to do. Because one thing that's not, you know, spoken as much of or taught as much of in herbalism is that kind of what you feel around them and the personality of the plant that you may feel around them and the energetics. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the Book of Shadows of how to do some connecting to plants as well. Oh, that's the, you decorated on the outside. Yes, that's great. All right, so this is going to be fun. I would love to see pictures that people have of their study area or the book that they're getting ready, you know, throughout this Herbal Book of Shadows challenge, because get inspiring people would be great. So I'll put on the Facebook page, you know, like I'll post like, hey, put your pictures here, but you don't have to wait for me to do those posts either. You could just, you know, share away on there as much as you want. So the Full Circle Herbals community is where you can share in that group. And then, like I said, I'll be sending stuff out through email too, even the replay of this for people to have. And I'm just going to see what other little things I want to remind people of. The next live Facebook meetup will be March 5th, so in 2 days at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'll be going into more of those plant profiles is how I call them. Some people call them materia medica. Maybe we should think of a name for it for the Herbal Book of Shadows. I'll have to think of some really cool name rather than plant profile. It's kind of a scientific term. That we can think of something a magical name for these. So the plant profiles are like each plant that you focus on and putting the information all together like that. Now I do have, some people will organize their Herbal Book of Shadows in a way that's for ailments, or like I said, you know, you may want to even organize it by ritual or by ailment rather than by plant. Or you could do both. I actually do both in my one that I have right now. I have a spot for herbal actions, so like antiseptics and antimicrobials. I have a list of those plants. And then if I want to know more about that plant in terms of dosage or how to use it in, magically or anything like that, then I go to my plant profiles and find them there. Or my other binders down there. I have this is my third binder. I have 3 of this size of binders with information in there, and then I just have it up here in my mind as well. So there. All right, anybody with any questions or requests for lessons, please let me know. We're meant to interact through Facebook, and I'll be, like I said, sending you things through email so you have little activities to do. And I'm really glad everybody's joining for this Herbal Book of Shadows, because I haven't really seen anything about Herbal Book of Shadows, and so I'm really kind of just making this up for myself. I mean, because I want to share with people who see it as a Herbal Book of Shadows as well, and not just like a scientific collection of data, because I was so scientific for a long time, and you know, it was kind of boring after a while. Like, how many Latin names can I memorize? And Latin names change over time. And I was trying to keep up with all, like, how many names has this one plant had? And, you know, it's really, that's fun and all, but then you got to get into, like, how it feels and how you're going to use it. And Herbal Book of Shadows, it was really fun to me. So, so yeah, I wanted to, it's kind of something I've been thinking about for like 6 months to a year. and I'm super excited that other people are on here with me. I think we have 120 people signed up through email, and then I don't know how many in this Full Circle Herbals community Facebook group are specifically here for the Herbal Book of Shadows, but it's going to be a fun 7 days, and I look forward to everybody sharing. Let's share our magicalness. Plants are sacred, and they're meant to be here. They're healing. They are healers, and we need to get to know them much, much more than we do give them our sacred attention. So thank you, everybody, for joining. I'm going to sign off now, and have a great day or night wherever you are in the world.